Hey there, SEC sports fans. It's the Brew Shavers SEC Sports Podcast. We've got a lot to talk about today. A very eventful weekend. Not just the great slate of games that took place, but some breaking news. Well, not really breaking anymore, but some very big news about coaching changes, shakeup in Baton Rouge. But before we get into all of that, Darren, let's step back and talk about some of our other reactions from the past week. And I think you probably want to start in, is it too far of a stretch to say Nashville?
Let's see. It seems like there was something that, oh, yeah. I don't want to spend too much time on it because I know everybody, oh, no, the Vanderbilt fans excited. I get it. I know that. But still, I think you have to at least acknowledge the fact that it's pretty incredible for the conference to see, I admit it, the perennial punching bag for decades with a couple of years of exception be 7-1 for the first time since the 1930s and win their games not by luck. I mean, 2008, the last time game day was in Nashville, they won that game that night. That game day was in Nashville and did not win another game till Kentucky at the end of the season. Went on to the Music City Bowl, where their punter was the player of the game because the winning score was a punt that glanced off of Boston College player's knee, and Vanderbilt recovered it in the end zone. So it was not this dominant performance of, man, Vanderbilt. I mean, we were all excited. Don't get me wrong. It was a very, very fun year, but this team is showing something dramatically different, showing that even in what Clark Lee called an ugly game, they found a way to win. We saw it be very well rounded. The defense stepped up where the offense faltered. And that's not always something you've seen in the past with Vanderbilt. So it was an incredible, incredible game. Edge of my seat, family laughing at me because I'm, pacing back and forth on the floor in front of the TV or on the floor. But nonetheless, it was awesome. It was a fun Saturday for sure from a Vanderbilt perspective.
And you should enjoy every minute.
That's what I'm trying to stay in the moment. I'm trying to take Mike Elko's advice. Stay in the moment and just enjoy it. That's what I'm trying to do. Now,
7-1. I mean,
71 for the
a lot to celebrate.
first time in almost 100 years. I mean, 90 whatever years. Pretty incredible. I mean, that's just absolutely unreal. Now, Ben, I'm pretty confident I know what your reaction is going to be and what you're going to talk about. So I'm going to let you do that first, but then after you tell us what you're reacting to for the past week, I do have some questions for you, but I'll let you take the floor first.
Well, first, congratulations to your Vanderbilt Commodores. They continue to roll. They got a big matchup down in Austin this Saturday.
Goodness.
I know I have a feeling you're going to be watching that one as well.
I'll be there. Well, watching it, not be there, but
Of course, my reaction is centered around the events that unfolded in Baton Rouge and how quickly they unfolded. Sometimes there's a knock on Southerners that they take a long time to act, but when they do, it goes fast. And that's what happened in Baton Rouge. The Brian Kelly era came to an end a little less than, 4 years, I guess.
Yeah.
His tenure did not meet the expectations. That was one of the things that LSU athletic director Scott Woodward said in the official statement about Brian Kelly's dismissal. They did not meet the expectations that had been set for the program, namely SEC championships and national championships. And Brian Kelly did not win an SEC championship. I think he won an SEC West title in his first year.
Mm-hmm.
No appearances in the playoffs. In fact, when you compare his first 4 years with his predecessors, he won less games and lost more games. In addition, each of his predecessors, Saban, Miles, and Orgeron, won SEC titles and national championships. So he was not able to do either one of those, unfortunately, because you want your coach to win. It benefits the program. But it came to a head early, I guess, Sunday when a meeting of Scott Woodward and some changes that the AD was telling him to make on the staff, and Kelly pushed back about some other changes he wanted to make, and it seemed to go downhill rather quickly after that. They're still working on his buyout. We don't know
Right.
what's going to happen there, but I saw a source today that said there's no public money from the state is going to be used to fund his buyout. So if you see anybody posting, well, this money from education or hospitals or this or that are going to be used to pay this 53, 54 million, whatever it is, that's not going to happen. Plus, if Brian Kelly next year gets a job coaching or in media, that will that mitigation. It will take away from what LSU owes him. So there's a lot of moving parts there about him, but at the end of the day, he just didn't meet the expectations. I think that's the best way to put it. The loss to A&M Saturday night was the nail in the coffin.
Oh yeah,
Tiger Stadium emptied.
yeah.
It was a horrible performance, and from what I've been reading and listening to from different sports guys around Baton Rouge is that Brian Kelly lost the fan base. He lost the locker room, and it's hard to come back from that. He's you can't argue with his overall coaching record. It just never seemed that he was a good fit in Baton Rouge, and the results were not what everyone was looking for.
And I think it's an important thing because I think from the outside looking in, there will be a lot of people, especially Twitter basement dwellers, who who will take shots throughout this process at LSU for overreacting. He won 75% of his games, or whatever the number is. On, I think it's very, very important. What you just laid out is what people talk about. He was brought there to take the program to a new level. He came there because he wanted national championships, and 4 years in, no playoff appearances, definitely not any prospect of a national championship, and he did not perform at the level of his predecessors, much less taking it to a next level. So everything that was the expectation, if you're not there 4 years in, are you going to be there at 6 years in? I mean, is it possible? Yeah, but is it realistic? No, it's not. So I think that's a very important piece of the puzzle that people need to be talking about. This was not a Baton Rouge Southern football overreaction. I think it was a very realistic reaction to where things were, and what you can kind of forecast the future could be, with especially when you talk about things like losing the locker room. Some reports say he basically lost the athletics office, in addition to the fan base and the locker room. So if that's where you are, where are things going to go? There's nowhere to go but further downhill.
Yeah, I was talking to an Ohio State fan today who was asking me what's going on down there. You really got to understand the Louisiana culture. LSU is the biggest thing in this state
Absolutely.
by far, and so when the team doesn't do well, it impacts the entire state. And you don't want to pile on somebody when they get fired because he's a human being like the rest of
Mm-hmm.
us. But you also have to recognize that this was the right decision at the
Absolutely.
end of the day. Sometimes we make bad decisions and we have to pay for them. In this case, it's dollar signs, but
Absolutely.
we've all done that in our lives. But when you go 5-11 against top 25 teams, you're 11
Exactly.
11 on the road, you're 19-10 in the SEC. You don't have to attack Brian Kelly personally. You can look just at the facts and say what may be acceptable and good at some schools is not what LSU has come to expect in
Exactly.
rich tradition that is LSU football.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. And I mean, we've talked about this before with James Franklin. What he did at Penn State did not work for Penn State, so they sent him packing. If he would have stayed at Vanderbilt, and his last 12 years or whatever it was would have looked exactly the same, there would be statues on West End of James Franklin, because so it's all about the program and the expectation.
Yeah, and this was another reason this was the right time is you're basically going to see a dramatically different roster next season.
Mm-hmm.
Kelly said before this season that this was the best team he's had at LSU. So he put the bar up, he put the pressure on himself, and
Yeah.
now 3 losses before November.
Yeah.
Uh, the number one transfer haul in the country. But if you look at the recruiting classes, they were slipping. They kept getting, well, that they're not quite as good each year of Brian Kelly's tenure.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a good time to do this because you're getting into the recruiting cycle. Uh, Brian Kelly with the recruiting slipping a little bit at LSU, the inability to do much with the transfer portal. Uh, you don't want to put hindrances out there in trying to recruit talent to LSU. LSU is a brand, and
Mm-hmm.
so I think what we're going to see in this that even though Kelly needed to go, you're not going to see a big shakeup in their commitments already because people commit to the university more than they commit to a coach, and so
Great point.
I think. I don't think we're going to see a big upheaval like at some schools where a coach is fired and you see all these decommits and I think LSU is going to be fine recruiting wise, but this was a decision made looking at the future. Like, how do we move forward from this? And I don't know what it was. It just always felt off, Darren.
Right.
I'm not sure that, I don't know if Brian Kelly ever appreciated how big and important LSU football is to the people in
Mm-hmm.
this state. Uh, I don't know if he ever did or not. Maybe he did. Maybe I'm totally misreading that. I
Well,
never met the man, but
friend of the show, I mean, he doesn't know it, but friend of the show, Josh Pate, we think he's a friend of the show, but he said in one of his reaction videos that I saw over the last couple of days that he felt like part of the disconnect was Brian Kelly never really understood just how important the L in LSU was. He
yeah.
never made that connection of exactly what it meant to everybody in this state. And I think that's a great point. And basically, what you were saying is a great point.
Yeah, it's a matter of connecting. Look, he didn't have to fake or try to put on a fake image of who he is. We knew him coming down here. He's a northerner, not ever lived in the South before, so he didn't have to try to fake an accent or try to fake that he's
Right.
Southern. And that wouldn't matter to people. Joe Burrow is from
Mhm.
Ohio, and Joe
Exactly.
Burrow is revered in this state and loved deeply because of what he did. But he never came down trying to be someone he wasn't, and I don't think people were asking Brian Kelly to do that, but I think they were asking for him to embrace the culture and to treasure it, to realize this is a
Hmm.
pretty amazing place. It's different from anywhere I've ever lived, but this place is amazing. And
Absolutely.
for those of us who live in Louisiana, we know that, and
Yep.
I don't know if he ever got that part of it.
Agree. Agree completely. I think that very much speaks to the disconnect that you were talking about. It's well said. All right. So the difficult part is acknowledging that you're in this transition time. Coach has been fired, but that also puts us in a place where we have to talk a little bit about the future. So I have some questions, a couple of true false questions, and then I also want to throw some names at you. Okay,
Yeah.
that are potential, that are possibilities. Of course, we don't have any inside information, but we're just what we're seeing in the chatter. These are possibilities. So, true false question number one: true false. With the LSU job now being open, this is the best opening in all of college football, best head coaching job that's available in all of college football.
Yes, no question about it. 3 of the last 4 coaches have won national championships at LSU. The talent runs deep. The brand is a national brand. Absolutely.
Well said. Well said. True or false? The very first thing Scott Woodward should do is drive to Alabama and set up camp in Nick Saban's driveway and force him to say no to coming back to LSU? True or false?
It might not be safe for Scott Woodward if he drove to Alabama.
He
Uh,
might need to do a Zoom.
maybe he can reach out somehow. I say true with this caveat. I think it's very unlikely Nick
Right.
Saban gets back into coaching, but there's a Bible verse that says you don't have because you don't ask. So
There you
if
go.
if he asks and Saban says I'm flattered, but I'm staying retired, you haven't really lost anything. It might be a good idea if they ask Saban to help them in the search. Like, would you be part of this process with us? Saban's a good judge of talent as well as character among coaches. And you think about how
Absolutely.
many coaches have been fired at other jobs and they came to work for Saban to rebuild their career. I think at some point you definitely reach out to Nick Saban.
Great point. And having him as a consultant, that's a very well thought out. I like that a lot. Good call. All right, 5 names. I'm gonna say the name and then you react, and we'll just run through five very quickly, rapid fire. Okay. Number one, John Summerall.
No, because the same reason that LSU didn't look at Billy Napier. Coming from a smaller program, yeah, Tulane's doing well. Summerall's doing good, but no.
Side question, real quick. Do you think there's a little bit of a thing of the people in Louisiana won't really be bothered that they don't look at him because there's that little bit of that's the LSU little brother. We're not going to go grab their coach. That's kind
Yeah.
of a thing. Do you think that's definitely part? Nobody will be jumping up and down and say, "Why did you not go look at him?"
Yeah, especially the people, the Tulane fans.
Yeah, yeah. They won't have a problem with it at all, will they? All right, Lane Kiffin.
He's got to be near the top of your list. I think when they hired Kelly, that Kiffin really wanted the LSU job.
Interesting.
Now he stayed at Ole Miss because resisted. I know he's looked at Florida in the past, and they're coming after him now. His children have a big impact on his decision. I think the last go around, it was his daughter that said she didn't want to leave Oxford. He's got a son that is playing high school football there. He may not want to pick up and leave. So Kiffin's matured in that way. I
Yeah.
don't think if his family says absolutely not, we do not want to move at all. I don't think Kiffin's going anywhere. But if he does go somewhere, I think LSU probably has the best shot of landing him,
That makes sense.
unless his daughter and Whit Weeks break up.
Yeah, that would be awful. Well, I was headed
Awkward.
there, but then James Franklin.
No, 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 not a good fit. Franklin didn't win the big games at Penn State, and that's the knock on Brian Kelly at LSU.
Mm-hmm.
5-11 against top 25 teams. Uh, you're getting someone very similar, maybe different personality, but in terms of records and you're getting someone very similar. So no, Franklin's not a good fit.
Eli Drinkwitz.
Oh,
Bringing the force to Baton Rouge. What do you say?
you watch his press conferences and you think he might be able to fit in at LSU. His
Yeah,
former defensive coordinator Blake Baker is already there,
already here. That's right.
so it might be worth talking to him. He's done very well at Missouri, and which is one of the smaller SEC schools and probably one of the smallest budgets.
Yeah.
But he has proven to be successful there. A lot of these guys, it could be a game changer for them because LSU gives you resources that you don't have hardly anywhere else. You have a few that would match those resources. If you're looking at out of SEC schools, Ohio State is one that can match the resources.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, overall, I just don't know. I don't know how Eli would handle Baton Rouge compared to Columbia, Missouri.
Yeah, I think one of the concerns would be that size difference as far as how it affects the spotlight that's on you. Because I do think we have seen sometimes in the past where he didn't necessarily respond real well to stuff that was happening in Missouri. Questions that were asked, the way he responded to reporters, people on the field. So, I think that does have to be a little bit of concern, but we all grow and mature, and I'm sure he has as well. But
Yeah.
I agree. I think when you see what he's done in Missouri, unless you're able to go grab like Lane Kiffin's your guy, I'm going to go get him, and you do, I think you have to make him tell you no. Just by seeing what he's done in Missouri, I think you have to have the conversation.
Yeah, and one of the things that also is going to play into this, Darren, is LSU wants somebody that is going to come to love LSU and
Absolutely.
being at LSU. I think was it Peter Burns that said that today that he thought Brian Kelly liked being the coach, but he didn't love LSU like Coach O loved LSU.
Absolutely.
Saban came from up north, but he came to love LSU and the people. You could
Hmm.
say the same thing about Les Miles.
Yep.
That's who they're looking for. If you just get another guy in here that's got this long pedigree and he just wants to be the LSU coach,
Yeah.
it's gonna flame out. You want
Exact
someone that's
same.
going to come to love the people. Coach O is so LSU. That's the mentality you want. Where he was approached and saying, "We need to make a change at coach. Here's the buyout we're going to give you." Coach O has famously said in retelling that story, his response was, "Which door you want me to walk through?"
Right.
Because for him it was all about what's best for LSU.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Speaking of loving LSU, one more name. Well, actually, before we get to one more name, I've seen Clark Lee's name on two or three lists. Uh, we might have an issue. I'm just telling you now. Anybody you can talk to in Baton Rouge, you need to go ahead and get out in front of that. He's off limits. All right, I've got that out of my system. I feel better.
Good.
What about Joe Brady?
Yeah, I think you explore that. When the way that college football has changed now with teams having general managers, somebody that's got the college and NFL experience, that might be a guy you want to take a long look at. Joe Brady, of course, was here in 2019,
Mhm.
that great year. He's been in the NFL. Yeah, I think you at least talk to him. Another guy is Kelvin Shepard up at Detroit,
Yeah,
um, who's a LSU guy.
I was going to say, obviously loves LSU.
Yeah, you give. I think you give these guys a call. You feel people out. Um, Scott Woodward has the reputation for swinging big,
Yeah.
and a couple things can happen when you swing big. One is you knock it out of the park, which he did with the hire of Jay Johnson and the hire of Kim Mulkey.
Hmm.
But sometimes you miss, and it gets ugly when you miss, like the case of Brian Kelly and what we've been hearing and watching this weekend.
And he's 0 for 2 swinging big football coaches at
Yeah,
A&M and at LSU. So
yeah.
maybe you moderate that a little bit if you're him in
That's why
this
you bring
approach.
in someone like Nick Saban as a
A
consultant.
great point. That's a great point. Well, there you go. We hit the names that are out there. Got to talk. Do you feel a little bit better? Did you get to kind of
Uh,
process a
It's
little bit?
it's going to be okay. Look, about Clark Lee. Clark Lee is a tremendous football coach. What he has done at Vanderbilt, I don't think he would be a good fit at LSU.
Agree. I
I
agree
hope he, I
completely.
hope, I hope he stays at Vanderbilt and continues to build what and continues to take that program to even greater heights.
I agree. And I hope one of the things that comes from this cycle of all of these openings and stuff is you see the guys that are alumni of the schools where they're having success, stick it out there. They don't go to the next job. Clark Lee at Vanderbilt, Brent, I'm just blank, the guy at Georgia Tech. I'm just blank on his name.
That's the ACC school.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I can't remember names. But the guy at Arizona State's the same thing. These are guys that played there. They're alumni. They love the school. I hope we see in this cycle all three of those guys stay put and say, came here to be successful where I played and I'm going to stick it out. I hope we see that with all of those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point. That takes us to our power rankings for this week. Darren, I think we may be identical this week. Let's
I,
look at our rankings. And how about that?
there you go. Now, for me, my big change was oh no, I had Vanderbilt fifth last week. I started to
Yeah.
say that was my big change, but I think obviously Vanderbilt stays right where they are. I again struggled with. I even looked at who had what ranked wins. Which, by the way, when you consider the fact that Alabama started their season losing to an absolutely awful Florida, what we know now is an awful Florida State team that might not even have a coach by the end of the season, the way it's kind of looking. And they have rallied from that to their more than half of their games that they have won since that loss have been against ranked opponents. It's just, it's crazy the contrast to start there and end up, number two. When it comes to power rankings, fighting for a number one, I don't think anybody would say, "Oh, well, that guy's crazy. He put Alabama as number one." But it's really crazy the contrast and slope of their season.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to move Vanderbilt up, but everyone else ahead of them in my power rankings won.
Exactly.
And, and I made the one change. I had Texas A&M leapfrog Alabama simply because of Saturday night. They didn't
Absolutely.
just beat LSU. That was a B team. They
Yeah.
they came in and uh, controlled that game. Empty Tiger Stadium. Them part of that was,
Yeah.
and also the Brian Kelly effect. Uh, but I'm very grateful because if the Aggies had not beaten LSU in that way, we would not be looking at this coaching change, which I really believe, Darren, people knew deep down this has to happen, and
Yeah.
it's hard to do that, but
I,
the A&M loss really did that, and
yeah.
it brought up those memories of Tommy Moffitt, the strength coach at LSU, who Brian Kelly chose not to retain, a guy that was a part of 3 national championships.
Yep.
Uh, when you have someone that's been so loyal to a school and the new coach comes in and says, yeah, don't need
Yeah.
you anymore. That was probably not the best move on his part. But
And then he goes to A&M and helps
yeah.
build that program. So,
Oh yeah.
oops.
So yeah, Alabama had the tough win against South Carolina. They
Yep.
SEC road win, that counts for something. Of course, Georgia, Ole Miss going to Norman, winning a close
Yeah.
one in Norman. So
They
yeah,
tried to give it away. Yeah.
they tried, sure, sure, but yeah, this is a solid. I think both of us
Yeah.
top 5 right here.
Five strong teams. Five
Mhm.
strong teams.
That takes us into 4 down territory, which means if it's close on 4th down, you're going for it.
That's right. Fourth and
So let's
one.
start.
We're moving.
Let's start by looking at this past weekend and the infamous brown bag pick. I feel like we should have ominous background music playing.
Especially during Halloween season. Or something.
Mhm. So, Darren, who is your brown bag pick?
With all the conversation about coaches being fired before the season is over with, it's not just an SEC thing, it's across the country. But one of the constant conversations is always buyouts. And now this buyout is the biggest buyout ever. And now this buyout is the biggest. My brown bag goes to the agents who have pushed for this and the athletic directors that have let it happen. I get from a coaching perspective that with James Franklin and Brian Kelly, you can win 75 and 80% of your games and it still doesn't fit the expectation. So you're looking for a job, even though by just a 10,000 foot view metric, you're like, well, that's you 80% of anything. It's a pretty good day. If you're winning 75 and now you're without a job, you got to take care of your family. You want to protect your family, but I don't think numbers have to be record breaking in order to protect your family and to ensure your income. So I think it's gotten so ridiculous. I do applaud uh, LSU from the perspective of at least there are things that are in there that can mitigate if he finds a job if this happens, as opposed to Jimbo. It didn't matter what he did; he just got one big check, and so I at least applaud them for doing that. but it's just way too much. And I know that pretty much sums up college football right now. But anyway, this is kind of the one that's to me right in front of my face and just seems so over the top ridiculous. So that's my brown bag for this week. How about you?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. Along with that is the often inaccurate reporting we get from people trying to be the first to break news.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, I was one of those folks on Sunday refreshing my Twitter every 15 seconds, wanting to see late breaking news. And I'd see a source say something I'm like, where is that coming from? And I had some people text me and say, oh, did you hear about this? And I think one of the important things to do when we deal with situations like the Brian Kelly situation, what was going on, and then later with the firing of Joe Sloan uh, today, Monday, is that we want to be discerners of information and not just consume everything that comes across our screens. So one thing to do is to find reputable reporters, local reporters,
Mm-hmm.
whoever your team is, find reputable local reporters. And that's what I kept going back to. I was like, I'd say, well, for example, Matt Moscano isn't saying anything about that. So I don't know if that's accurate or not. So find your good local reporters, because one of the worst things that can happen is you get suckered by a news, a breaking news, a tweet that is incorrect, and then you share it, and now it's like, well, we all look like idiots. So
Well said.
more important to get the news right than to be the first to report it. That's all I'm going to say about that. Speaking of guys that like to say a lot of things and keep saying them, in conclusion, let's go with our post game quote of the week. Darren, what you got for us?
This week for post game, I've got two quotes actually. The first one is an actual quote that took place after the game. Fair warning, you're not going to like it. I apologize in advance. The second one is I thought was a very well thought out answer, insightful answer when another coach was asked about the Brian Kelly situation and being fired. So the first one is a post game quote after Saturday night's very unfortunate events from an LSU fan perspective from Coach Mike Elko.
Uh, they're 20-1 under BK in 19 years. It's hard to win here, obviously.
20-2.
22 now. I apologize. You saw how loud it gets when we got in that second quarter. How proud are you of the poise of your team, and how much does it mean to get a win when it's hard to get a win?
Yeah, it's a really hard place to win, and I think I still don't know that nationally. There's a complete understanding of what it's like in these SEC away venues, and it's no disrespect to any other conference, but it's just different, and the atmosphere, the environment, when all of a sudden they get some momentum and the wheels start rolling, and it's hard places to play in this conference. Playing a night game in Tiger Stadium is a challenge, as evidenced by the fact I told the kids this the other day. I was the starting point guard on my high school basketball team the last time we won here, and so if that's any indication of how challenging it is to win here, you could put that image in your mind, Sam, and write about that.
So
He's right.
he started out taking a little bit of a shot. That's 20-2. But I think that was very complimentary there toward the end. To win a night game in Death Valley is bordering on impossible, as we've seen over the years. But for it to be so long, the last time that the team you're coaching won, you were in high school, that says a lot.
To the victors belong the spoils.
Exactly. Well
Mike
said.
Elko is a heck of a football
Oh yeah.
coach.
Oh yeah.
A&M's got a good one. What he's already done there, they're going to go to the playoffs.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you win a game and you come into a place like Death Valley, you can say whatever you want to after the game because you won.
All right. The second one is a quote that actually took place on Monday when Kirby Smart was asked about his reaction to Brian Kelly being fired.
Brian Kelly being fired, guy won more than 70% of his games. It seems like the expectations in the new college landscape has led to more midseason firings. What do you make of the state of the game, and is there any sort of danger here?
I don't know. I mean, it's the world we live in. Everybody's got a voice. Everybody listens to somebody. A lot of I don't know enough about that situation, to be honest with you. It's obviously a tough situation on everybody. I mean, let's be honest. It's the players dealing with it, fans dealing with it, coaches dealing with it at this time in the middle of a season. I think there's so much built around the playoffs, and it's like everything's boom or bust, and you can't have a normal season. People got to make decisions earlier based on how somebody does, and I don't know enough about it. I know it's high expectations. I coached at LSU, and a guy once told me, he said, that office you're in, that's not your office. You're borrowing it. And I knew right then that if you didn't win, you wouldn't be there long.
There you go. And that was a long time ago when he was a coach at LSU. Obviously, the expectations are still very much the same.
Yeah, definitely. Kirby's spot on as he usually is.
Yep, absolutely.
That takes us to the upcoming week ahead. We've got a lot of SEC football yet to play. As you look at the slate of games coming up, Darren, who is your sure thing pick for this weekend?
Well, I can't believe I'm actually going to say these words, but Auburn has, it seems, at least leaned toward making a quarterback change, has made some strides in confidence of the offense, and the game is at Jordan Hare. So it's in the land of pixie dust and unicorns, where anything positive can always happen for Auburn. So I don't think Kentucky stands a fighting chance. Auburn is my sure thing pick. How about you?
That's a tough place to play on Saturday night.
Exactly.
Lane Kiffin is finally getting his night game in Oxford. He's talked about it, wanting these night games instead of playing afternoon. So he gets it as South Carolina comes to town. And I just don't think that Shane Beamer's squad is going to score enough points on special teams to beat Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is my sure thing pick. The dreaded upset pick, Darren, as you're looking at the lines for all of the games. And if I was a betting man, which I'm not, but if I was, I think I know I would place a bet on who you're picking.
And you, sir, would be right. You would be glad you were a betting man. I can't not pick Vanderbilt.
Was that a double negative?
I think it was. I can't not. Yeah. But
wait, this may be the first double negative on the Brew Shavers SEC Sports Podcast.
With what I usually do to the English language, I find that hard to believe.
Well, you are from Tennessee.
Exactly. Deep Tennessee, Bucksnort, Tennessee was close to where I grew up. So, yeah. I have to pick Vanderbilt. Don't have a choice. 2.5 points is the most recent line. It started out at 3.5. It seems to continue to move, but nonetheless, got to go with Vanderbilt. It is the only option for this fan. How about you?
At some point, it's going to happen. Mississippi State is going to win an SEC game.
Come on, Bulldogs. You got to.
Heartbreaking loss to Texas in overtime last week. Mm-hmm. Jeff Lebby has not lost the locker room. I think they're behind their coach. Arkansas losing to Auburn last week as Bobby Petrino is trying to make himself a candidate for that head coaching job was just not a good look at all. I wonder if in the state of flux that the Arkansas program is in, if he starts to lose the locker room. A loss like that, and they may be looking at Petrino saying, "You're not going to be the head coach anyway."
Mm-hmm.
So I think the players at Mississippi State are going to come out a lot more fired up, and that's just a guess on my part. Playing for their coach, that program has a little more stability than Arkansas, so I'm going to go with Mississippi State as the upset.
Boy, I tell you what, that would come close to being an upset that was a sure thing if it was in Starkville instead of
Yeah.
Fayetteville. I mean, boy, you take everything you just said about Arkansas and add cowbells, whew, that's an upset waiting
Yeah,
to happen.
no doubt.
But still a good pick.
Let's move on to our game of the week, and we are headed to Knoxville for a monumental showdown between the Oklahoma Sooners coming off a loss to Ole Miss and the Tennessee Volunteers coming off of a big win in Lexington, Kentucky, which doesn't make them seem so special because a lot of teams are getting big wins against Kentucky. It's going to be a big matchup, a top 20 matchup of two teams. Of course, the personal side, Josh Heupel played quarterback at Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
I like how Joey Aguilar's playing. John Mateer seems to be struggling some since that injury. When you look at this game, Darren, what do you like? This is a night game, 6:30, ABC. What do you think?
Well, I think the thing that's interesting is we've got a very similar storyline to everything we talked about last week with Ole Miss, Oklahoma. You've got an offense in Tennessee that's averaging 45.6 points per game versus a defense in Oklahoma that's only allowing 12.5 points per game. This Tennessee offense is rolling off almost 7 yards per play. That's an incredible yards per play number. And then, on the other side of that, the defense for Oklahoma is only allowing less than 4 yards per play. So it really is something's got to give. And so I think it's a really interesting matchup from that perspective. But I think we saw a little bit of a better looking John Mateer last week, and so I think that's the other side of the storyline does not need to be ignored. How does this Tennessee defense handle an Oklahoma that seems to be getting a little bit more back in rhythm? So it's really an intriguing matchup.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun game to watch. Knoxville is going to be rocking,
Oh yeah,
electric atmosphere. OU, Tennessee, primetime, ABC.
big time stuff.
Well, before we leave, would you do us a favor before you leave? Would you hit that subscribe button? We appreciate it greatly. That helps us with our algorithms. And just maybe someday, if we get enough subscribers, guys like Josh Pate might realize that, hey, we exist. So,
Exactly. He
but
might know he is a friend of the show.
of course, we are going to keep doing this just because we
Absolutely.
love talking about SEC football, and we're glad that you join us for part of this journey and you love it as well. So enjoy the games this weekend, and until next time, y'all be sure to take care.
Have a great week.